To the good, the bad, and the others, my name is Sydney Matlaku. I am your performance shooting coach, and this is the ABCs of trigger control. Let's get into it. Now, you miss because of two reasons. One, you think that you are on target and you pull the trigger anyway, and then you miss. Second reason you miss is because of the trigger control. As you are pressing the trigger, you are moving the gun off target, and that's the second reason you miss. That is why we start with trigger control. Let's get into it. This is the ABCs of trigger control, right? At A, you are just touching the trigger. If you've got like a Glock trigger or any of those triggers like that, basically what it means is that you've just disengaged the trigger safety. That's it, just touching the trigger. Then you're gonna get to B. B is the wall. If you're new into shooting and you start to press the trigger, you will feel a little bit of resistance. It's almost like it stops you before the whole thing goes off. So that means it's the wall. Some of them are hard, some of them is just a nice little resistance, but you can still press through it. That is the wall. Most people think that the gun goes off here, and it doesn't. It actually goes off at C. Now, there are two forces here that are going to make you miss, again, because of how you're pressing the trigger. One is because of this thing has distance. Let's say, for argument's sake, this is 10 millimeters long. And also, triggers have got weight, second force. So most triggers, as they come out, they're about 5 kilograms heavy on the pull. So how is this important for you to know is because of how your hand works. So let's talk about it. First, let's discuss the trigger. When you start to press the trigger, if you press it slowly enough and start to be sensitive about looking at the trigger, even if when you look at it, put it in your hand and look and press slowly, you'll start to see. You're going to start to have little resistance that are going to happen. They are minor and tiny, but you can still feel them before you get to the main wall. After that, you're going to press again, and then after you press, again, you're going to start to feel other little walls after you pass B. Why is this important to know? Is because when you're holding out your gun, you're going to be holding out in space. Because you're holding out in space, you're not going to be able to see where you are on the trigger here as you press. But you might be able to feel. As I said, most people think that the gun goes off at B. So you might think that if I press about here, I'm at B. Then you think I'm there, and then you're going to be pressing. Then because you still have distance, let's say for instance your A to B is about 6 millimeters, and then from B to C it's about 4 millimeters. So that means if you think the gun goes off at B, you still have 4 millimeters of travel for you to deviate the gun, to take the sights off target. So very important to understand that the gun doesn't go off at B, it goes off at C. The other bit that you need to understand, especially when it comes to the weight, is that when you start to press the trigger, most triggers here, especially with rifle triggers, they'll call them two-stage trigger. Basically, it means that at A, as you're pressing it, it feels quite soft, sort of like there's no resistance. And then you're going to feel the wall at B. That's the wall. Then you're going to start to press. You're going to start to learn then as you start to press the trigger, light. Then you're going to get to about B, then it starts to become heavier. And the trigger stacks. What does that mean? It means that the more you press it, the heavier it becomes. So for example, let's say as I press here, it feels like 1 gram, 2 grams, 5 grams, then it gets into about 2 kilograms and I'm here. Then it gets into 4 kilograms, 4.5, and then 5.5, and then bang. And then the other thing also you got to be aware of is that you might feel a little bit more resistance just before it goes bang. It's how the gun works on the inside, is when the sear is just getting off, just at bang, at that level. What happens here? The trigger becomes heavier a little bit. It feels like another wall here. So again, let's go through it. You're going to press at A, no resistance. Feel a little bit, maybe some of the walls here, but not as heavy as the B wall. Then you're going to get to the one that's going to stop you. I feel it now. Oh, that's the wall. That's going to be B. But remember, after B, you're going to have other little walls again. And then again, you're going to get to the point where it's at C. Just before it goes bang, the trigger becomes heavier. So how is this important, and why is this important? It's because of how your hand works. Because you're going to start to press and press and press and press, and because you're wanting two things to happen here, the weight and the distance. You're still pressing. Because you've got so much distance to press, you're pressing, 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 and then because you're thinking maybe you are at the wall, then you're going to be pressing like that, and that's going to make the brothers and sisters get involved. If you've watched most of my videos, you'll hear me every time I'm saying, shot's gone low, it means that brothers and sisters got involved. Who are the brothers and sisters? Your 3 fingers here. How does it work? As you understand, when you grab things with your hand, doesn't matter what you're grabbing, even if you're picking up something off the ground like your baby or something like that, or getting something from the shelf, or even just grabbing a fruit out of a bowl, your fingers work together. Now, the way it's designed is that the pinky has its own muscle. Most think that the pinky is weak. It's not weak. It's got its own muscle, its own tendon. The ring finger and the middle finger share a tendon. So they share a muscle. Index finger's got its own muscle. Of course, thumb's got its own muscle. So when you grab things, it works in this order, right? So what happens now when you're trying to isolate and trying to shoot? You're going to invite your brothers and sisters because of two things, right? One, because of the weight, remember? The other is because of the distance. So let's say you want to press from here to about there. You want to press quickly from there to there. Because you've got this thing called distance, it's going to affect the understanding of, no, I need help from my brothers and sisters, because your hand is designed to grab things together as fingers. So you're trying to isolate. The second thing that's going to be part of your resistance is the fact that it's 5 kilograms heavy. So the weight of the trigger on it is going to need to say to you, hey, my finger needs help with the whole hand. And that's when now they get involved. Remember, this is not a democracy when you are shooting. It needs to be a dictatorship. Do not invite your brothers and sisters to the party. Just make sure that you isolate one finger only. And this is when now it becomes really, really difficult because of how your hand is designed. So let's go through it again. You've got the weight and you've got the distance. That's going to affect how you press the trigger. The reason you shoot low and left as a right-handed shooter is because as you press the trigger, you're going to feel resistance. When you get to that resistance, you want to press through. As you press through, look at these fingers for me. As I'm pressing through, they act first and then this one comes. Look, I'm pressing, I'm trying. As I'm trying, look who moves first. These move first because I'm trying to move as quickly as possible. As I'm saying, it's a democracy. These move first and then this comes after. If you want to treat it like a dictatorship, this must move and this must not move. So you gotta practice this. I've got a few drills to show you on how to do this, and we're gonna get into that first drill, which is same hole